Good afternoon, Chamber members. Welcome to our Lunch and Learn webinar series. Today's topic is Corporate Wellness That Lasts, Increasing Your Productivity and Decreasing Your Healthcare Costs with Sustainable Lifestyle Solutions. Our presenter today is Mary Ellen Landry of SLS Health Coaching. SLS Health Coaching is owned and operated by Mary Ellen and John Landry, and combined, Mary Ellen and John have over 50 years of experience as health and wellness leaders. They are sought after for their knowledge, for their energy, and for their ability to communicate and connect with people. Their passion is to provide a supportive, non-judgmental community that empowers people to create positive life changes. Mary Ellen is a certified workplace wellness consultant with well.org. So, ladies and gentlemen, sit tight. You're in for a treat with today's presentation. Please welcome Mary Ellen.
Okay. All right. So we were just taking care of some technicalities there. We had to mute everyone's line. So welcome, everyone. Thank you, Krista, for that wonderful introduction. And it's really a great opportunity for us to be with you today. I do recognize some people who've called in or are using their computer system to join us today. What I'd like, as much as possible, is to be interactive. If you'd like to engage, obviously you can just sit back and, being true to form, as a lunch and learn, maybe you're enjoying your healthy lunch while we present today. Now, we'll be together for approximately an hour, probably less, giving you an opportunity to engage and ask questions. But I would invite you to do that throughout the presentation. If you have comments or questions right away, I'll keep an eye on that chat box, and we'll do our very best to answer those questions. So this is, I guess, a slide for you folks. And we've muted your lines. If there's anything particular that you're not able to, one, see me or hear the audio, just let us know by using the chat box. So as Krista very kindly introduced us, we're really here today to explore and kind of get the conversation going for those of you here about the benefits of investing in workplace wellness. Now, this is certainly a topic that's getting more and more to the front lines, certainly as we see lots of change in the health of the employees today and how we can benefit from engaging and investing in a workplace wellness solution. So I'm going to skip right over this slide because Krista did a great job introducing John and myself. One area that my husband is certainly at the forefront is in the coaching piece, and through his certification with Robbins-Medinas, this really gives us a neat advantage in helping people create sustainable lifestyle solutions. So I'd like to start first with asking you a question, and that would be, at this present time, how is your current corporate wellness? And that might be a question that's easy for you to answer, or it might be a little bit more challenging. And even the question itself, you might be, well, Mary Ellen, what do you mean by our current corporate wellness? So it could be in the individuals that you have working with you or for you. It could be in the environment in that those employees work in. So you can be looking at this organizationally or individually. So I'm just going to give you a couple of seconds just to think about it. Maybe jot a couple of things down. Maybe it would be that you would say you're in great shape, that your organization has a great wellness program and that employees are engaged, they're happy, you don't have a lot of absenteeism, things like that. So just take a few minutes to think about that. So let's ask ourselves a few questions. So if you're kind of at a bit of a loss as to how to answer that question, maybe you can be guided a little bit with these questions. So would you say that you feel frustrated or disheartened with the loss in productivity in your workplace while you notice or someone else in your organization notices that employee health is deteriorating? Sick days and presenteeism, absenteeism, a lot of these biomarkers or these benchmarks that are in your organization are actually really starting to go in the wrong direction. You know, if we have a CFO or someone dealing with the financial aspects of your organization, are you seeing your profits plummet while these healthcare costs start to soar? And the positive light, do you wish to do all you can for the well-being of your employees? You see this person with the cape, and do you want to be seen as an employer of choice? And so are we doing all we can to retain the top talent? So the good news is we do have solutions. There's some great research out there now. We see organizations who have been engaging in workplace wellness, and now we have the opportunity to look back at those efforts to see, what's paying off, what is the ROI, and what's working and what is not working. So we all would like to see these people that work for us, or maybe you are one of those employees that are sitting here in this webinar today who would like to be seeing yourself healthier and feeling more engaged and more alive at work. So the question becomes, why should employers invest in wellness? So I want to stop and park here just for a moment and look at a 2001 Harvard Business Review article called The Making of a Corporate Athlete. And in this particular review, we're really looking at the employee as a whole. And we're looking at productivity really not being kind of an end result, but it's really not about brain power and what we can do on that level, but really this is a pyramid of a well-rounded approach, and we're looking at the bottom part of our pyramid being the physical well-being of an individual. It could also be the physical well-being of the organization. So on top of that strong foundation resides your emotional, mental, and spiritual. So this is a really strong piece in the making of the corporate athlete. Now, while this was done in 2001, it stood the test of time, and we're certainly seeing that this is starting to become a part of a successful corporate wellness initiatives around the world. So we have to think first about this physical aspect. So we can't really build a really well organization or individual without having a strong foundation. So we don't want to build on a house of cards. And so if we look at the individual components, since employee health is critical for productivity, the increasing incidence of chronic disease is a serious concern for employers. So this is certainly what the evidence is pointing to. A most recent report from RAND has just come out and really kind of taken a deeper look at what's happening in the workplace wellness area and what's working and what's not. So let's take a look at this physical health here. Actually, I think somebody's unmuted, so I'm going to pause for a minute and mute that line because it's just a little distracting. Bear with me a moment. I think we're good. No, here's one more. Another one. Okay. So if we look at the employees, in particular, those with 4 lifestyle risk factors, examples being obesity, physical inactivity, poor nutrition, smoking, or high alcohol intake, report 50% more absences than those without these risk factors. And I have my references at the end, so if you want to see where that comes from. So this is something to consider. So we're kind of just laying the land here, kind of getting, state of the union, if you will. And when we look at those treatments, so those people that are in your care, those that are in your organization who may need to have treatment for chronic disease, such as heart disease and cancer, type 2 diabetes, these are the major areas where your direct health-related costs occur. And so while they are still currently a smaller part of your population, these are growing, and these are also the people who are contributing to most of your costs. And we'll see a specific diagram about that in a moment. So I would be remiss to mention the specifics on mental illness as it relates to workplace wellness. I just attended the New Brunswick Human Resources Association conference recently, and there were two specific presentations I sat in on, and they both were dealing with mental health in the workplace. We're bringing it to the forefront for numerous reasons, but these are people in your care who are often not letting you know for numerous reasons, and we won't get into that today. It's a whole different webinar. But we want to make sure that we're remembering that these particular individuals could certainly benefit from a workplace wellness program. And certainly in terms of absenteeism, productivities, and the indemnities that are related to healthcare, while we see that this figure being at 2003, we're looking at $51 billion. And you can be guaranteed that that number is higher now. So we would also say that an unhealthy workplace is detrimental to learning, collaboration, innovation. So if we look at the workplace culture, and if we're looking at the organization as a whole, we can look at the well-being of that organization or their lack of. So we've kind of given you a lay of the land. It kind of seems kind of dismal, but there's really a lot of good news here. So for a moment, I just want you to imagine being respected as the employer who takes care of employee well-being, having increased productivity from healthier and happier employees, decreasing healthcare spending, attracting and keeping top talent, and providing a caring environment where people thrive and exceed expectations. And imagine decreasing short-term and long-term disability claims due to complications from chronic disease, which includes mental illness. And imagine helping employees diminish these complications of or even reversing chronic disease, and we know this is possible. I thought before I was ready. So we want to make sure that we're dealing with the chronic disease, and we'll get into that key point here in a moment. And even becoming more important is this demonstration of legal due diligence. And we know that some of the solutions we're able to provide you through some of our strategic partnerships allows employers to meet that standard that the Mental Health Association and this mental health in the workplace piece has brought forward. So it allows you to check off that box, and it makes it easy, because often what we find from managers and leadership is they know they have issues in the workplace when it comes to mental health or others, but they just don't know how, or what do I do now? So let's move into that a little bit. So how do we achieve a successful wellness program? What is success in the workplace wellness area? So if we look at this area, we hear about ROI. So when we look at ROI, the return on investment, we have to think sometimes outside the box of the financial piece. And some of the things that are really quite priceless in that you become an employer of choice. You have employees who are engaging. They're happy. They're happy. They're happy to be at work. They're happier with each other. I mean, there's a huge trickle effect to investing properly into wellness programs. So the key word here is when it's done properly. So we now know from some of the research out there that, not to say that it's been done wrong, but what can we do better? So they're working with people and organizations like those who are leading the way, like Aetna in the United States, through Mark Bertolini, John Mackey at Whole Foods, and some other Canadian organizations who are really kind of setting the gold standard. So we want to make sure that we're looking at it ROI, absolutely. So employers who are seeking a healthy return on investment really should start to consider investing in those who have chronic disease, not who are going in that direction. So risk factors like type 2 diabetes, well, that's actually a chronic disease. So let's look at blood glucose. Well, that's a risk factor. So we may look at risk factors as an area to start, and this is the lifestyle prevention piece. But you already have people with chronic disease in your workplace. That's guaranteed. We have an epidemic. It's been said here in this province from Stéphane Robichaud that we have a tsunami of type 2 diabetes. And honestly, it doesn't need to be that way if we know what to do and how to do it. So these chronic diseases are in the workplace, and you can see a lot of improvement in your bottom line, your ROI, and also the health of those people by investing properly. So when we look at things like exercise, restful sleep, there's some emerging evidence talking about not only the amount of sleep, but the quality of sleep we are receiving. There seems to be a badge of honor right now on people functioning on little sleep. It's not useful in the long term, and it really is detrimental to people's health. Stress management, obviously, we're hearing this word in North America called mindfulness, meditation. These areas that in other places of the world, my friend Dr. Shona McIntosh, who is certified in teaching mindfulness-based stress reduction, would say they don't use that word. They don't understand what mindfulness is as a word because it's just part of who they are. But here in North America, we've given it a label so we can start to help make people manage the stress that they're dealing with. And certainly, we need to start considering how we are nourishing ourselves. The base of 95% of all chronic disease, according to Dr. Dean Ornish, is related to lifestyle and nutrition. So let's break this down a little bit. So when we look at disease management, now currently what we're seeing from different organizations and reports coming out that the disease management piece has not been effective. But we would say that we don't think it's been done properly, and how we're actually able to have people reverse their chronic disease and certainly diminish a lot of the day-to-day problems, medications, issues that are related. So we know for sure through the evidence that that's possible. And so we want to switch things a little bit and consider that disease management drives return on investment from workplace wellness programs. And that's the most recent report from RAND I was talking about. And in the follow-up to this webinar presentation, I'll certainly be connecting with everyone who is here and those who registered to give you further resources so you can investigate this further, including this RAND report. And so when we're looking at this particular slide, we're looking at initially this employee participation. And so only 13% of those who were participating actually had chronic disease, and then 87% of those who participating were involved, in the lifestyle management program. So they had risk factors, but they didn't currently have chronic disease. But interestingly enough, if we move over to the employer's healthcare cost savings, you can see that a bulk of it, and the same numbers, 87% of those savings are in those who are in the disease management aspect. So this is where you're reaping the benefit on a financial level, is in those who have chronic disease. So we're starting to see some emerging data that would indicate maybe there's a different need for emphasis on those with chronic disease. So let's talk a little bit more and maybe dig a little deeper into some of the specific keys to wellness. So we've given you a lay of the land. It kind of seems dismal, but the good news is you have an opportunity. The better news is we're seeing emerging data come forward that tells us maybe where we should be going. And now we're going to dig into some of the keys for a successful wellness program. So for those of you who are here today, you may be one of those leaders at your organization or someone who's responsible for wellness in the workplace with where you work. And I notice a couple of people here on the line. I might guess that falls to you specifically, as that is your entire role or it's been added to your role. So as Robin Sharma says, leadership's not a title, it's a behavior, and live it. So we have two organizations that we work with here in Fredericton who I can say with absolute certainty, they embody and they model wellness. They exercise, they eat well. We've seen Jamie Eddy at Cox & Palmer, who we've had the pleasure of working with, who has changed his eating habits completely. And he's seen a further enhancement in his productivity and how he feels. And he's a managing partner at a very busy law firm here in Fredericton. And so he's embodying that, as well as our friend Lincoln Thompson at Gardner Realty. So wanting themselves to feel better, but also recognizing the value to their employees. So you need to step back a little bit, or I would suggest we step back a little bit to understand that the physical, the financial ROI may take a little time to be realized, but the investment for the long term is definitely worth it. So we see return on investment even sooner when we start to embody and think about investing in those chronic disease employees. So the traditional model was seeing ROI maybe 2 or 3 years out, but when we shift the tides here a little bit and start investing in those with chronic disease, we can realize that return on investment much earlier. And so obviously role modeled or at least supported by leadership. So whether it's a communication that goes out by your leadership and a strong message that it's encouraged and we want you to look after yourselves, it's important to us, needs to be considered. Other keys to a successful wellness program are some of the bullets you see here on this particular slide. That it's integrated. So in other words, it's woven into the fabric of your organization. It becomes a part of your culture. That it's targeted. Maybe you have some particular pain points right now. Maybe there's things you know for sure that you really want to focus on. And then, of course, being comprehensive. So it's not something that is only for a small group of people, but it's comprehensive and it includes your entire population as much as possible. And then dealing with this holistic approach we looked at earlier with the pyramid from the corporate athlete, and that we're including different facets of wellness. Now, a few things that aren't here are some emerging pieces on your sleep, financial wellness, and supports for mental well-being. So this can certainly be realized a lot sooner when you have coaches that can offer you the information and support you and design programs that produce these results you're looking for at your organization. Now, we've talked about this already, but the focus on prevention, certainly. I mean, there's definitely a need, and we want to prevent people from being ill. We want to prevent chronic disease. But currently what we're seeing is that we spend that time initially with those with chronic disease as well as the prevention piece. This will start to pay off in the short term. Now, it's certainly great to have a wellness program in your environment. And one thing I'd like to say at this point is what we know too is that asking employees to reach in to a benefits package or to what's provided to you by your, whether it's Great West Life or Blue Cross or Manulife or whoever your benefits provider is, and asking them to reach into your wellness program isn't working. People aren't apt to reach into telecoaching to somebody they don't know. Partly why I've included my mug today so you can see who I am as a wellness provider, so that you can make a connection. So asking people to reach into these benefits, it's not working. We need to consider, as the employer, reaching into our employees and making something very obvious and very distinctive and something that's really taking kind of the employees by the hand and saying, we care about you and we want to do something. So we want to be able to measure it. We maybe want to look at some benchmarks. Maybe it's absenteeism, maybe it's presenteeism. Maybe it's measuring biomarkers for employees who are interested, you know, blood pressure, cholesterol, all these benchmarks that are physical and concrete, but also maybe considering a pre and post evaluation, asking somebody, you know, their quality of sleep at the beginning and their quality of sleep after, using a scale, or you use a Likert scale or however you want to do it, to see if it's physically improved. You know, if it's gone from a 1 out of 5 to a 4 out of 5 as far as quality of sleep, we could say, well, that employee is seeing some improvements and certainly starting to feel well. And the continuous evaluation of programs and activities. Now, this is an important piece because you may start off with some key pieces that you think are important, and then you may need to adjust the sails as you go. Maybe certain initiatives aren't working as you thought they would. So let's continue to evaluate them. Let's make sure that we're involving as many people as possible and just change things as we need. As well as we want to make sure that we're engaging the employees in the activity development. So, you know, recently we had the opportunity to host my stepdaughter's 10th birthday, and we wanted to make sure that she was involved. It's her birthday, and she's, you know, been to birthday parties, you know, quite recently. What's the gang doing? You know, what's important to them right now? And so we had her join us in the development of her own birthday party, so she felt involved. She knew what probably her friends liked, and she was living it. So we felt that it was important to involve her for a number of reasons, but it included her involvement, and so she felt more excited about the outcome. And when we look at this area of being reward-driven, it may be, you know, we have organizations. I know we're currently working with one we might be engaging with, and they call themselves AAA. triple A type. So not just A type, but triple A type. They're highly competitive and they admit it. And so being reward driven, they like the challenges. They like to be able to compete against each other in a friendly way. But you also may have people who are intrinsically driven. So just that they feel better, and just simply the recognition that you look more rested and you look like you're having much more fun at work. So we have different ways to recognize the rewards. Now, this next area in particular may or may not be possible for your organization, recognizing kind of the fiscal restraints you may be in, which is why we really want to consider this crucial point in investing in workplace wellness, is that it's, we just don't have the money to have someone dedicated only to this, and that's their only job. Oftentimes it's added to your job description, and sometimes that's actually adding stress to that person's plate. But a dedicated person assigned to that aspect is something to consider, or you bring in somebody who can help you with that, doing some consulting with you and getting things off the ground. Maybe consider a trainer of trainer approach where that wellness consultant can have champions within the office, and you within the organization carry the program, which also has great benefit. So those are some keys. Obviously, we're just getting the conversation going today, and there's much more to talk about. And so it's kind of just getting you thinking about these key pieces. And so as we look at this piece on investing in sustainable lifestyle solutions, the word here, sustainable, is what's really important. We know that healthy lifestyles result in more energy, more enjoyment, and and improved productivity. So this is really the ideal employee. There's nothing wrong with saying that a business exists, as I sit across the table from our CEO of the Chamber of Commerce, to be profitable. We are, a lot of us, in a place where we exist as a business to be profitable so we can continue to do the work we love and to continue to support the employees that work for us. So being able to be profitable is not a bad thing. So you have improved productivity in your employees, while at the same time as you are showing that you care. So it's a win-win. So what we know too is that some of these temporary fixes, or some of these solutions that are out there, whether it's a health fair once a year or a flu clinic or a lunch and learn. Actually, a lunch and learn is a great way to get the conversation going. They're really not going to provide you the sustainable results that you're looking for. So kind of like the dirty word diet. A lot of diets will produce results in helping people to lose weight, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's healthy, and doesn't mean it's going to be sustainable, and 99% of diets do fail. So in the short term, maybe success, but in the long term, we need to consider this integrated, woven into the fabric approach, so that these behavior changes have an opportunity to take hold and that they're sustainable. So speaking a little bit about that piece, and really why we do call ourselves Sustainable Lifestyle Solutions, because we're interested in seeing people thrive for their life, not for the short term. And while we do specialize in the prevention piece in the workplace, we do have a particular niche in prevention and reversal of chronic disease. And we're seeing some great success in the community in some of the workplace wellness initiatives we've been involved with. Lincoln Thompson's been freely open about being a type 1 diabetic, and in the time he's spent with us, he's already started to reduce his insulin needs by 15 to 20% and dropping, and he's type 1. He's talked about the quality of sleep he's receiving, first time in years. And so this is improving his productivity and his well-being at work. So in the simplicity of what we do and what others like us are likely to engage you with, is that these simple changes that we make in our day-to-day lives is really what makes things sustainable in the long term. Short-term goals, things that are easier to achieve. We don't want to set people up for failure. We teach people how to set themselves up for success. What we know for sure, and what we know from the literature, is that even just within weeks, people can experience benefits. First thing we hear from people who have engaged in our programs is, I have all this energy now. And so if anybody has visited their doctor or has had the advice, well, you just need to exercise more. Well, if you're not nourishing yourself properly and you have no energy, being asked to exercise, or knowing that you likely would benefit from engaging in more exercise but you have no energy, just makes a person feel defeated. So when you have an increase and your energy, things change. When you have more of it, things change. By managing stress, for example, prescribe a blood pressure medication. So we likely don't need these medications. So, and it maybe you're one of those people who going to go back to feeling unwell. Look, this a whole you didn't really know was available. You go back to feeling the way. For a little bit more understanding of how we approach workplace wellness and how we work with people in the community, we use this well-work approach, not like what you saw in corporate athletes pyramid, but use different facets of physical well-being, nutrition, stress management. I think people perceive barriers before. But clients, they have a aha moment or a switch goes off, why they weren't successful before. We want to make sure that we're being well-rounded in our approach, but it means that right now in your workplace, you want to be able to focus in specifically on assessment. So we can formulate a program and a strategy and a really well-tailored program to help your organization work with stress. So another piece that we are connecting today through the internet and having an opportunity to engage, but this is often how we are conducting business these days, or we ourselves are in front of a computer. So we want to make sure that people have an opportunity to be face-to-face with people. And that our approach is highly evidence-based, based on the reports we're seeing from workplace wellness, as well as our experience in the chronic disease realm. And we follow some of the top lifestyle doctors in the and totality of evidence that is visible to how we approach chronic disease, not only in the workplace, but in general. I have to go into a little bit of how we might approach things. So we have to be workplace through organizational mental fitness, who are incredibly Dr. Patty Peterson himself for numerous years leading in mental fitness and lead inventory, which takes 8 minutes to complete and allows organizations to see where the are and actual targeted activities to improve that. So we're seeing some really neat uptake with that. We also have the opportunity to work with larger organizations in creating aggregate reporting so that you can see as a whole. Take the city of Fredericton, for example. There's a large number of employees, so we could actually look at aggregate reporting to see where the pain points are, particularly in the area of individual health. Is it smoking? Is it diabetes? What's really happening here, and target programming based on that. At this point, this slide is more just my reminder just to pause for a moment and to see if you have any questions. I'd be very interested in hearing from those of you who have questions or comments. And to remind you, of course, too, this is just the beginning of the conversation, and we'd love to engage with you further. So I'll stop there just for a moment, see if there are any questions. You can use your chat box, and providing I can see it properly, I'll be able to see who might have a question or comment. Maybe it's because you're still enjoying your delicious lunch that you're engaged in that activity. Now, because we have some limited time, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to be sending out resources and ways to continue the conversation. I would say at this point, what you may want to consider, and as a suggestion, is to think about how you will take action after this webinar. What are your thoughts? How do you engage with others in your workplace, and how do you get the ball rolling? One way we can help you with that is to let you know we're very happy to come in and do a lunch and learn at your organization. That's how we got things going at Gardner Realty. We had a huge uptake and some interest from the incredibly busy and stressed realtors. You can see all the for sale signs and the sold signs in this city. They're busy, and they were really appreciative of our help. You can see from Jamie Eddy and Lincoln Thompson some in their own words how they felt about engaging with us in workplace wellness. So let's continue the conversation. I'm going to hand it back over to Krista for some final words, but I want to thank all of you esteemed and fellow members of the Chamber. It's been a pleasure to engage with you today, and I wish you a wonderful afternoon and hope to be connecting sometime soon.
Hi there, Krista Ross again, and I just want to say a great thank you to Mary Ellen. That was really informative, really interesting, and certainly gave us some good ideas for going forward with programs for our businesses. We want to thank Mary Ellen and show our appreciation. We're making a donation in Mary Ellen's name to our scholarship fund, and I also would like to thank and acknowledge University of Fredericton. They sponsor our Lunch and Learn webinar series, and they host us here in their offices. So thanks again for a great presentation to Mary Ellen, and thank you to our friends at University of Fredericton for hosting us today. Thanks very much. Everyone have a great day.